Hi, I'm Charlie Osmond, the Chief Tease at Triptease, and I've gathered two of our brightest minds from the company to discuss with me today some of the changes that Google have just announced. This feels really like a really hot topic because Meta has been such a key driver of direct bookings over the last few years and is going to continue. But Google have changed things. So I'm joined today by Jon Hickford, a group product manager at Triptease, who for years now has been working on our Meta products and speaking to hotel customers about Meta, and Google also about what they've always changing. And Nigel Haig, who is performance marketing director at Triptease. And hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining me on this.
Hello.
And forgive me that it's only 24 hours since the news broke, and you're coming at it with your hot takes. But I know we've already started hearing from hotels who are concerned at the changes. So perhaps we should start with what Google have announced. Jon, could you tell us a little bit about what Google announced?
So Google have announced that they're going to shut down their automated bidding models, their commission-based bidding models for Metasearch. And actually that change is going to come quite soon. They're not going to allow any more hotels onto those models from April. And then if you are using that model today, any existing campaigns are actually going to be stopped at the end of October 2024. So it's not a huge amount of time hotels and vendors have got to get their heads around this and make the changes that they need to.
Okay, so the Google commission model doesn't affect all hotels, but it does affect some.
Will affect some. So it depends on how you're bidding or how your meta provider is bidding for you. So these automated models work by Google decides how to bid. You just tell Google how much you're willing to pay for each conversion. So maybe you're willing to pay a 10% commission fee or a 25% commission fee, whatever it is that you're willing to pay. And then Google goes off and bids on your behalf using their own money and only charges you when those bookings happen. And in fact, they only charge you when the guest actually stays, and they won't charge you until after the guest has checked out.
Okay, so the important first point is, if you're a hotel today who is putting ad spend money up front to Google and running CPC paid ad bidding for Meta, this does not affect you. This is only affect people who are running and paying commission for the bookings that Google brings them.
Yeah, absolutely. Those who are doing a commission at CPA, they're going to be impacted by this change, unlike everyone else. If you're bidding manually or you're bidding in any way where you're providing your ad spend budget upfront, this isn't going to impact you. I should also note it only impacts the Google hotel ads products, the Google's Metasearch offering, things like paid search, things like display. Those aren't impacted. Those have never had these commission-based models. It's only ever been Metasearch that's had them. One of the things that kind of makes it a little bit like an OTA, a little bit like a distribution channel, is the existence of these models, but they are going away.
Got it. And something also to maybe add in there is our understanding of various providers, booking engines and the like, who support hotels on Metasearch, is that in the majority of cases where you are paying a commission for Google Metasearch, you know that that's what you're paying for. It might be managed by your vendor, but your vendor is transparent to you that you're paying on a commission from them and they're running the commission model on Google. However, there are also some hotels who will think that their vendor is running the bidding and it's the vendor who's doing all the bidding decisions. And actually, very often, a vendor might, in the background, without telling the hotel, be running on Google commission. Is that fair? So there will be some people who know this affects them because they know they're bidding and using the Google algorithm. And there were some people who might be working with a vendor who isn't transparent they're using the Google algorithm.
Yeah, that's correct. Like lots of people buy Metasearch as a package, either with other channels or they bought Google alongside TripAdvisor. So it's not always clear exactly what your vendor's doing. So if you may know that you're using this, you may not know that you're using this, your vendor might be needing to make some changes behind the scenes for you. It's a good question to ask your provider at the moment about what this change means for you specifically.
Okay, got it. Great. So first of all, what you're saying is for these groups of hotels, if you're one of the ones who's using Google commission model, then there are changes. The main change is that Google are going to get rid of the commission model. And can you just talk through the timeline of that again?
So anyone who is using this already, they have got until October to come off these products. At the end of October, Google is going to retire all the campaigns. If you've not moved on to something else, by that stage, your paid meta listings would disappear.
Right.
If you're not using these yet, Google will stop any new users of this in April. So if you are adding a new hotel and you're doing that in the next few months, you want to get that on Metasearch, this isn't really a model you're going to be able to pick from April onwards.
Okay, so we understand Google are going to be stopping this commission model. What are the implications? What does that mean for hotels?
Well, it might mean that you need to change the way that you're bidding. So potentially you might need to move from a model where you're paying on a commission after guest checkout to committing some upfront ad budget and bidding using a cost per click mechanism upfront. Or it might mean that you might need to look around and see if there is another provider, another package that you can get that lets you continue operating in this way where you pay commissions and you pay after checkout. You might see some other changes as well in terms of perhaps less visibility of what's happened. Yeah, providers might need to change exactly what they offer in order to kind of facilitate this change.
And so you touched on something there. You kind of implied that some hotels may actually need to change their vendor. Can you just explain why do you think that's likely to be something that some hotels are going to find they can't work with their vendor?
So these automated models from Google have been pretty popular. They arose primarily during COVID, and they were a pretty useful mechanism for a lot of people, hotels and vendors, in order to help give people low risk performance, low risk advertising within Metasearch. So as these go away, vendors are going to need to find alternatives to that. Maybe they'll be able to do that fairly easily. For some people, this might be quite challenging, having to try to refactor how much Google was giving them for free. Google was kind of being the bank and the insurance company. They were effectively loaning people money to spend on adverts that they didn't have to pay for until after guests checked out. And they were also being the insurance company. If a guest cancelled, you didn't pay Google. Now vendors have to be those two things themselves if they want to continue to offer an offering like this.
Okay, got it. So just saying that back to make sure I've understood. So we see in the market whether quite a few booking engines, channel managers, for example, who've been able to provide a meta service to hotels on a CPA commission basis. And they've been able to provide that service over the last few years because ultimately they might say to the hotel, we're going to charge you 12% commission rate. And then they go on the Google bidding model and they pay Google 8% or 10%. And so the vendor's able to make a margin to run the program, and they're able to rely on Google's bidding prowess and Google, as you say, bank of Google, paying for the ads and only charging for the conversions. And there will now be some booking engines and others and the like who perhaps aren't able to self-fund a commission model. And so we're assuming that some vendors will say, we need to wholesale change the way we're doing meta. We may not be able to offer a commissionable solution. And we're assuming, we haven't spoken to lots of them yet, it's only been 24 hours, but we're assuming that might change a little bit in the marketplace, the extent to which everyone wants to offer this. Carry on offering commission options. Why do you think Google have done this?
Yes, this is broad. I think there's a few reasons. So firstly, this has really standardized Google's hotel ads offering, their Metasearch offering, in line with other advertising channels. There aren't commission models available on paid search. There aren't commission models available on display, on YouTube, on their other channels, but there always was on hotel ads. So by removing these, they brought hotel ads back in line with everything else, a bit more standardized. I think the reason that it was there was because Metasearch behaved a little bit like an OTA, and it let people access Metasearch in a very similar way as you would a distribution channel. You didn't have to worry about budgets, you didn't have to worry about costs, you didn't have to worry about cancellations. You could treat it very much like an OTA, distribute there at a very low cost in a very, very sort of reassured way. But it was kind of not very different to other performance marketing channels.
Right. So it's almost that because Google really needed, 2-3 years ago, it was essential for them to have all the world's hotels providing their prices on Google. That was like one of their ambitions as a business, to have as much coverage as some of the OTAs do on properties. And so they were looking for what are the greatest ways to incentivize hotels to give us their rates. And they, obviously understood that a lot of hotels will sign up for something if it's only pay on a booking. And so having that commission capability has been really powerful tool for Google for the last few years to encourage hotels to try Meta. And now they're saying, right, sorry, you've now got to move into line with everything else we're doing around all other industries, and there's no more commission happening.
I think so. I also think a contributing factor to this is the relatively recent loss of Google's performance max for travel goals. And I'm sure we can talk a bit more about this in detail, but that is a multi-channel advertising format that includes Google Hotel Ads, and that is only available on an upfront ad spend basis. And I think there's a bit of like a discrepancy in that you could buy Metasearch in one way, buy Hotel Ads on their own in one way, but you couldn't buy Performance Max for travel goals this way. I suspect for a lot of people that's creating a barrier to trialing or using or adopting this new channel. So I suspect Google here might have thought about, well, if we remove that option from Hotel Ads, that reduces the barrier. I guess they could have gone the other way and added a commission model into Performance Max for travel goals, but they've not done that, and they have kind of changed how Metasearch. So I think it makes it an easier fit, and it's perhaps removing a barrier for adoption of their new product too.
Got it. Oof. Okay, a lot going on as always. Big. That's part of what I love about this industry. These things change, and these incredible shifting sands make us all reconsider. Gosh, how are we going to drive more direct in the future? How do we play with these changes? Now that also brings us on perfectly to some of the things, Nigel, I really wanted to get your opinion on. Obviously, you focus on performance every day of bidding and running bidding models and the like across paid search and also Meta and other things. So what are the options then? So if a hotel is currently paying commissions and they like the Google commission billing model, what are sort of the different ways they can head?
So I mean, the first option is to switch to a CPC based bidding model, and so you can do that in a couple of different ways. So firstly, you can manually bid, and this is what has been available for a long time. And you have options to bid on a number of different levers Google make available, such as device and location and so forth. And you can build automation to try and do that more effectively. But this is kind of quite a resource intense challenge. The other option of that is
just before we move off that one. So it's resource intensive because the hotel is actually having to put the ad spend up front and then determine how to bid.
They are, they're having to. So the ad spend coming up front is obviously another big challenge that this affects both. But in terms of knowing how to bid and actually making those changes, and it's a lot of work to build an algorithm, and it's a lot of work to do it manually when you have so many different data points that you're looking to try and optimize performance towards. So that's where the kind of the resource comes in, and that's a real big challenge.
Okay, so just pause on that one to make sure we got it really clear. So the first option is you've been happy with commissions in the past. Maybe it's time that you move to what we often call in vendor parlance like a license CPC cost per click bidding model, where you're fronting ad spend and you are then determining whether to use like an algorithm or manually bidding. And to be fair to that option, that is a really great way of making the most of Metasearch, and a lot of the more sophisticated or big budget hotel groups that we work with, they actually opt for that option because you can generally make your money go further if you're going down that route.
Yeah, fair? I mean, like the very, very best providers, and I'd class us amongst them, have invested a lot of time, a lot of effort into building very complex machine-driven algorithms that can really drive strong performance. And it's not an easy thing to do, but that is definitely one of the key options. And I guess the other option that kind of exists in this space is that Google have just launched a TROAS, so targeted return on ad spend product, bidding strategy as an option on their Google Hotel Ads. So in the same way, you effectively, it's bidding on a CPC basis, but you set it a target ROAS. So you say, I want a target ROAS, 12x, and Google will use all of its data to try to hit that and achieve that target. But there's the key thing here is there's no guarantee. So like the commission model where you knew exactly what you'd pay if you got a conversion, here you have to front the ad spend. And so, for many hotels, this may be a cash flow problem. If you're moving from a CPA commission-based model to one where you have to front the ad spend, that's a real challenge for some. And there is no guarantee of performance. And of course, you also have to, you may have to pay for, cancellations as well. I mean, that's another kind of real key thing. and also some of the data that you're losing through these different options. So you're not going to have the same kind of booking reference data. So in terms of the granularity with which you can assess performance and the different things you can look at, that's going to create a real challenge as well. So this option, there are some advantages. Certainly, you do get to retain a degree of control over your Google Hotel Ads performance, but it's not without its challenge.
Okay, so just to be clear, that's kind of two paths there. So first of all, we're saying you can put the ad money up front, you can run a bidding strategy, and you may get great performance. What then beneath that, we're saying one way you can do that is manual bidding. And another way you can do that is using an algorithm, and Google has provided an algorithm. It's the target ROAS algorithm, where you might say, I want to target 12x ROAS, return on ad spend. You give them the money, and then you hope that that's what they achieve.
That's it.
And being a good algorithm, that is what they should achieve. But the problem is that will be a target return on ad spend without taking account of the fact that, I don't know, we see maybe 20-30% cancellation rate of people booking who've come via Metasearch. So obviously you've got the cancellations, and you're also, with that algorithm, as you say, you were getting less data. And then I think then there's the other one is there's a real risk, right? We've seen it. You get an ash cloud, which means that no planes are allowed to fly into your destination for 3 months. COVID comes up, a war's breaking out. There are things that happen that mean you might have 2-month booking window, and something goes wrong, and you've spent all that ad spend and you haven't got the bookings. So there's just like there's the day-to-day risk of cancellations will happen, and then there's like extreme event cancellations as well.
No, absolutely. And the reality is, target ROAS is nothing new. They've had this bidding option available on their other channels, such as paid search and display and so forth, for a very long time. And it can work well, but this is it's susceptible to challenges. Certainly for smaller SMBs, when you have less data, it may not work as effectively. There'll be things like learning windows and things like that. That'll be other factors at play when it comes to see what kind of performance you get out of it.
Okay, got it. But great, thank you. So that's two options covered, I think, there. Both within the you're now paying for ad spend and you're taking the hit on cancellations. I think there's another one as well, right?
There's another option in that same kind of space, which would be which Jon referred to earlier, which is performance backed for travel goals. So the distinction here is that this allows you to run one campaign, but not only target Google Hotel Ads, the Metasearch product. You also target display, discovery, paid search, YouTube, etc. So all of Google's other channels in one single campaign. So from a kind of breadth of advertising inventory that you're targeting, it's very powerful. You can reach potentially a lot of people. So that's one of the major advantages it has. The challenges it remains are similar to the other two. You're fronting up the ad spend, of course. There is similarly no guaranteed performance. And the other big challenge a lot of people are finding with PMAX is that lack of visibility and control. You can't see which of the channels that you're running is actually the ones that are driving you the conversions or the bookings, and therefore your ability to influence and understand performance is much more diminished, and so it becomes a real challenge.
Got it. And to be like really specific about that, for example, is in this new world, if you're moving away from these commissions, and Jon, you kind of mentioned this earlier, is today where it's commission, we can follow, here was ad spend and it led to this booking and here's the booking reference. If we move to the target ROAS you mentioned, or to the PMAX option, the bidding is done for us, but it's very black box. And we're paying our money at the beginning of the month and we're getting some bookings, but we can't line them up. And for me, that feels like, when I think about the evolution, right, of where we're going, and particularly when we're trying to do sophisticated bidding for hotels, one of the things we talk a lot about, right, is not just bidding for today's booker, but understanding that, okay, if I get a booking for this hotel and it's someone coming from France, they are worth more money than when I get a booking for this hotel and they're coming from London, because the French guest is much more likely to repeat book, or the French guest is much more likely to spend money in on F&B. And so that the nuances and subtleties of what is actually a significant difference in the net value of a guest over their lifetime, you kind of lose. And so the ability to do that kind of more sophisticated decision making about how much you should be spending on your advertising and marketing is going to get lost. So that's kind of a disadvantage of using either of those two Google models. But as you said with PMax, the really good thing, the thing that we're quite excited about, that we quite like, is Google have created a very simple way for a hotel to be available in channels like YouTube, which most hotels are simply haven't been investing in adverts in that channel. And obviously it's an insanely popular channel for consumers and a good place to target. So it could be that a lot of hotels will say, well, I'm losing out on commissions, but I quite like the idea of trying PMax. And John, I think you alluded to this earlier. This is what Google's hoping, perhaps, that some hotels will say, I'm losing out on commissions, but hey, I get to try this PMax thing. And the thing is, people need to be just aware that there's some loss of data. One of the things I've been trying to get my head around is for Google to run automated models and for them to deliver value for the advertiser, you need a certain amount of volume, because algorithms rely on data, and if you haven't got data at volume, then in fact the algorithm isn't likely to make good decisions. So it feels like you need to be a hotel that's driving quite a high volume of bookings if PMax is going to really work. And on the flip side, what I hear from Google and what I think we also hear from clients is PMax feels much better suited as an option for smaller hotels rather than like major groups. I think the major groups are less likely to go down the PMax route. Is that a dichotomy that only I'm seeing, or am I missing something?
No, I think it's a pretty fair observation. The reality is, what PMax offers is kind of a resource-light way to run a whole bunch of different marketing channels. But if you are a small hotel, then is it going to work as effectively as a bigger hotel, which, as you say, is going to have a lot greater amount of data? So it's a very interesting solution, and I think it will have lots of situations where it works very well, but it's not necessarily a one-fits-all solution in my view.
The final area I'd like to explore briefly is there will be hotels who are currently paying an agency or a vendor a commission rate for the bookings that are coming, and that vendor is using the Google commission in the background. Now, I imagine a whole bunch of vendors who are delivering that business and helping hotels and like to help their hotels and their customers will say, okay, well, we can't use Google automated bidding, but we do still want to be able to deliver a commissionable service to hotels. So they want to keep the contract with the hotels. They've got to find a new way to deliver the bidding. What are the kind of the options or the challenges of that? What should hotels be thinking about?
Well, I mean, this is it. So if you are with someone who is, with a vendor who's kind of charging you on a kind of commission basis at the moment, the reality is, if they are using a Google commission model in the background, that may have been a way that they were able to provide such a competitive, commission price to you in the first place, and that's why they may have outcompeted other vendors in the process. But what that means is, if they haven't been investing in the background the resource into either building their own proprietary algorithms, then they're going to be at serious risk of performance right now. And so what that means is, in the short term, if you are a hotel and that's what your vendor is doing, you may start to see performance challenges. And if they start to see performance challenges, they're going to start to put those costs back onto you. So either you're going to see your volume decline, or you're going to see your cost rise, or both. And so that's a very material risk for what could be a lot of hotels in the marketplace.
Okay, and we actually talked about, we imagine it, some vendors might say, we're charging a commission here, we're going to keep you on the commission, we're just going to stop spending money on the ads, and we're just going to rely on the free booking links. And so the volume might go down to that kind of there is no payment for paid ads anymore, it's just the relying on the free.
Yeah, and this is, so, what might seem on the surface a safe option is to kind of, rein back in and just say, we'll rely on the free booking links. We're not going to invest any spend in the paid Metasearch ads. And, like on the one hand, you continue to get those free booking links, which will provide you some kind of limited coverage. But there's challenges to that as well. So, firstly, you're going to lose all the paid bookings that you're going to get, so that's going to hurt your revenue, and those bookings are going to go somewhere else, and they're going to go to the OTAs, And that means that you're going to be losing direct revenue. It means that your cost of booking is actually going to rise because they're going to charge you a lot higher commission rates than you would do through a decent Metasearch commission-based model provider. And not only that, the kind of there's the hidden costs you don't see immediately, that loss of data, that loss of valuable people, people's emails that you can retarget, and all those other great things that you can do and provide them better experiences as well. And so it's one of those things whereby it might seem a safe option, but actually the pain of that option is probably worse than any of the others.
Jon, if I could just switch back to you just for a minute. So that one, obviously, as I said, there will be, it may be that as a hotel, you're lucky and you've got a vendor who you're working with on Meta, who you're paying commission to, who says, don't worry, we're going to keep the commissions going. What are the things that a hotel might want to ask their vendor to just make sure that some of the risks Nigel mentioned are less likely to hit?
We might ask kind of how they're bidding failure. Is this a bidding model that you're using? Are you using these two commission models? Are you using models where you don't have to pay Google until after the guest checks out? Were you sort of transparently passing that to me or not? Is there a big change that you're going to have to make? I guess, I can think a bit about Triptease here and, what we need to do. We are and always have really been like big users of CPC bidding. So the vast majority of hotels that we have with us are not using those models. I think we have no hotels using models where we pay Google after checkout. Although many of our customers pay us like that, that's not how we pay Google. And therefore, this doesn't pose a particularly big change or challenge to us here. But it's definitely worth checking with your vendor what the options are that you have. Are you going to need to change it a different way? It is October. There's a long time for you to start thinking about budgets between now and then. You might need to start thinking about, gosh, how much do I need to be setting aside to run an effective Metasearch campaign next year? Or thinking about, what other options are there for me? Like, how can I continue to run this service in a way that I would like to run it?
Okay, got it. So if you are today a hotel paying on the Google commission model, you need to be aware that this is going to end, and it's going to end in the next sort of 6 or 7 months. So you need to be ready for it. You may need to start thinking about changing the way you allocate budget for this. It might need to move from being in a distribution budget that you're paying commissions on into your marketing budget, because you've got to find the ad spend up front. So there is definitely a lot to think about. If Triptease can be at all helpful, we would love to be. As Jon mentioned, we've been running our own AI models for Google Meta for like over 5 years now. And so this is something that we kind of assumed was coming at some point, and it helped us always double down on that. So we'd be very happy to help. But yeah, probably step number one is go and speak to your Meta provider partner and just ask them, what are they doing? What are they planning to do? Because you definitely want to make sure they're planning ahead. Great. Well, guys, thank you so much. It's a really big change for a lot of hotels, because I know they won't want to shift onto a paid ad spend up front, and they'll be looking for a way to run commission for Metasearch in the future. So if over the next few months, you as a hotelier, you try something new, you experiment, you find out a winning strategy, something that you want to share, please let us know. We would love to help enable other hoteliers to learn from what you find or what success you've had. And on that note, I'm sure this will be a hot topic of debate at our next direct booking summits. So if you want to find out more and talk to those, then you can look them up. But otherwise, good luck, and thank you for listening. Thank you, guys.